Neale Donald Walsh was at low point of his life in his 40s, having been ill, divorced, having no home nor a job. At night, he used to write letters filled with bitterness and anger to let off some steam caused by his frustration. On a night of spring in 1992, he decided to write one such letter to God personally. As he was writing about his unfortunate life, demanding answers from God, Neale claims to have heard a voice in the form of a thought in his head coming directly from God, or rather inspired by God. That event resulted in a series of popular books of Neale's talks with God, who answers to a wide scope of questions regarding the meaning of life and the purpose of existence. Neale's Conversations with God became a cult book to many, and it was followed by another 32 books. Today, Neale is writing and giving lectures worldwide, and he is coming to Zagreb at the end of March. I'm happy to announce to all my followers that he will reply all the questions regarding happier living, the truth about dying, and ways to help ourselves when we encounter problems.
I'm really thrilled to have the opportunity to speak with you. We have so much in common. I'm also the author of a bestseller about spirituality in my country. I'm a radio host like you used to be. I love your work so much that I mentioned you in my book. And we're going to meet each other in person on your seminar here, because I have the honor to announce you for the big audience there also.
That's wonderful. Thank you. That's that.
In the beginning, I want to thank you for everything that you have done to help all of us to live our lives with more meaning, with peace, love, and appreciation. Thank you so much.
How may I serve you on this call?
How would you introduce yourself to someone who is listening to you for the first time?
I would say that I'm a spiritual messenger. I would say that I'm not a teacher. I'm not a spiritual master. But I do accept and embrace the fact that I am a spiritual messenger. Further, I would say that all of us are spiritual messengers, that we are sending a message to each other about the highest truths of life in the way that we live our lives, in the things that we think, and the things that we speak, and of course the things that we do.
So when you speak about doing, what do you consider to be your greatest accomplishment so far?
Learning finally how to love another person without having a personal investment or need for any kind of return.
When you speak about loving other person, how did you learn to love and accept yourself?
By learning how to love another person.
Mm-hmm.
When I learned how to truly love another person with no expectation for return,
mm-hmm.
then I could finally truly love myself. But I discovered in my life that I had to practice it, projecting from me before I could give it to me, to myself. So that was my process.
What do you think your divine purpose is?
I think that my divine purpose is the same as everyone.
Mm-hmm.
I believe, and I've been told in my conversations with God, that we all have the same purpose: to use our physical life as a vehicle through which we can recreate ourselves anew in every golden moment of now, in the next grandest version of the greatest vision ever we held about who we are. So I have been told that the purpose of the soul is identical from person to person. How we do that, how each of us may choose to do that, is what individuates us. It's what makes us individual. Some may be a musician.
Mm-hmm.
Some may be a poet. Some may be a lawyer. Some may be a radio personality with a best-selling book like you. Some may be a plumber. Some may be a street cleaner. Some may be a waiter at a restaurant. And so how each of us activates the purpose of the soul is left up to the creative impulse of each human being. But our purpose behind the impulse, our purpose for doing what we are doing, is the same for all of us. I could put it in one word: evolution. We are involved in the eternal process of evolution.
Great. Did you ever ask yourself, how come that you were the one who was able to have the conversations with God?
Well, yes.
And what was the answer to that question?
The answer is, we are all having conversations with God all the time. I was not the chosen one. I was told on page 5 of 3,000 pages of dialogue that God is talking to all of us all the time. The question is not, to whom is God talking? The question is, who's listening? So I wasn't chosen out of 8 billion people. I was one of 8 billion people who are having the same experience. Most others are either ignoring it, or not believing it, or believing it but rejecting it.
What do you recommend to all of us? What can we do every day to lead happier lives?
Ask yourselves the 4 fundamental questions of life. Ask yourself in the morning, ask yourself in the afternoon, and ask yourself in the evening. The 4 fundamental questions of life, and give those questions answers. The answers may change from moment to moment, but allow yourself to answer the questions. When you answer the questions, the 4 fundamental questions of life that I was given in conversations with God, you will lead a life of more productivity, greater joy, more fulfillment and deeper satisfaction, and greater happiness. The 4 questions are, number 1, who am I? Number 2, where am I? Number 3, why am I where I am? Number 4, what do I intend to do about that? When you ask and answer these questions, one could almost do it on an hourly basis if you were really studying hard to move your evolution forward. When we ask and answer these questions, we solve for ourselves the greatest mysteries of life. And the answers to those questions lie within all of us. We don't have to go to an encyclopedia. We don't have to go to one of your speeches or lectures. We don't have to read your book. We don't have to read my book. Well, we probably should read mine, but not yours. Ha 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 ha. Only joking. But to be serious, we don't have to look outside of ourselves to anyone. We will find the answers within. All we have to do is be persistent and consistent in asking the questions.
When you speak about those things that we should do daily, what is your daily spiritual practice?
Being present in the moment. Allowing myself to not escape to my past thoughts and my past worries, to my future worries or future thoughts, or to anything other than what is presently arising in my experience. So my daily spiritual practice is to discipline myself, not run away from what's happening now, but to be totally and clearly present with what's happening now, and to notice how I am responding. And then, if I am not totally happy with my response, that is, if my response to what is happening now is not the fullest, richest, grandest expression of who I know myself to be, then my opportunity is to recreate myself, to change my response, to alter my reaction, so that each moment of now is a tool, actually a gift from the universe, allowing me to express and experience the next grandest version of who I understand myself to be.
Mm-hmm. Do you have something with you begin your day? Do you meditate when you wake up, or how do you start your day?
I yawn. Then I get out of bed and I go into the shower.
Okay.
Then I shampoo my hair. Then I go out and I use the bathroom. And then I come out and I take some pills that I take every morning for my heart condition. Then I go downstairs and my wife usually has some toast and a little glass of milk or some coffee for me. Mm-hmm. Then I give my wife a smooch. And I see where that goes. And
Great.
if I have luck, it goes to wonderful places.
Great. That's divine. When you look at all the hard times in your life, being sick, homeless, and without job, what have you learned from all those hardships?
That they are only hardships because I have said that they are. Mm-hmm. That in and of themselves, they are simply events that I have called hardships. Mm-hmm. And that life will produce outcomes that are always in my favor if I simply give it a chance to. Mm-hmm. You know, I ask a question at all of my lectures, and I will ask the same question in Zagreb. How many of you in this audience have experienced what you felt was one of the worst things that could ever happen to you, only to find out 6 months or a year or two later that it was one of the best things that ever happened? And 95% of the hands in the audience go up. Every single time I ask the question. I ask the question in Japan, I ask the question in Mexico, I ask the question in the United States, I ask the question in Germany. It doesn't matter where I ask the question. I get the same response from people everywhere. Mm-hmm. The master, the spiritual master, is the person who knows this ahead of time. Yes. And doesn't wait 6 months or a year to find out, oh, that was one of the best things that ever happened to me. The master is the person who knows it while the event is occurring and does not judge it and call it one of the worst things that could ever happen to me, but knows ahead of time.
Great. This means a lot to me because I have my YouTube channel, and every time I finish the video, I say to everyone, and please know that only good is ahead of you, and know it all the time. So I really found myself in this because I had, of course, as we all do, I had some pretty heavy things in my life, and I will raise my head when you ask that question in Zagreb. So you're coming to give us a seminar here. What can all of us expect to hear from you here?
They will hear me share the experience that I was given in my conversations with God, and they will hear me also share how they may change their lives in a meaningful and joyous way once they come to understand the purpose of life and why things are happening the way they are happening. And once they understand their own role in the evolutionary process. Most people don't understand that.
When you say God only says yes, could you explain this to all of us that are listening now? What did you mean when you said God only says yes?
I meant that when we interact with the universe, we should know that God never says no. The universe never says no. The universe simply responds affirmatively with a powerful yes to everything we think and say and do. So there's only one word in God's vocabulary, yes. And I wish the same thing were true for my wife, that she says yes and sometimes she says no. But God only says yes, and whatever we say and whatever we do if we understand that, then we can use the power of the divine to generate experiences and manifestations in our own life.
So I have one hard question that I want to ask you.
Oh, you mean the other ones were easy ones?
Yes, pretty easy, but this one is hard. What do you think will happen when we die?
The question is answered in the book Home with God, in the life that never ends. And in that dialogue, which is a dialogue book, it's a dialogue between God and humanity. And I asked the question there. Of course, it took a whole book to answer it. But in short, what happens when we die is that, first of all, we don't die. That is, we don't cease to exist. We simply exist in a different way. I asked God, what is death? And God said, death is simply a process of re-identification. When we identify ourselves in a new way, and we come to understand that we are not our body, that we are not our mind, and that we are not even our soul in the individual sense, but that we are really all one, part of a singular life expression, individual but not separate. Also, what happens when we die is that we meet and greet all of our loved ones, both those who have gone before us and those who stayed behind. That is, we are not separated from anyone, but even those who were alive when we died join us in our so-called after-death experience, because there is no time and space in ultimate reality. So we will meet up with everyone, and important and meaningful in our lives, and we will craft and create our next encounter, our next adventure. We will also be given an opportunity when we die to either move forward in the spiritual realm or to return to the physical realm, to return to the life we just left and undo our death. I'm told in Home with God that each of us has the opportunity to reverse the dying process if we choose to, and to not die in that exact moment. When I heard it, and it's explained in detail, of course, in the book, that was a big surprise to me, but when I heard it, it really changed my understanding of what happens when we do the thing that we call die.
Yes, and it's so sad that people are so afraid of dying all the time.
Many people are, because we've been told in our culture, but our cultural story is simply inaccurate.
Do you have some advice? What can all of us do to have better relationship with God?
To have a better relationship with God, all we need to do is acknowledge that the energy that we call God exists. And number two, acknowledge that there's no separation between the energy we call God and us. That is, to embrace and accept the reality that God lives in us, as us. That God is imbued and embedded in everything that lives and everyone. And then we can have a true friendship with God. I wrote a book, as they know, titled Friendship with God, in which I listed the 7 steps to having a real friendship with God.
Thank you for this opportunity, Neale. I've been so blessed to have you as my guest. Can't wait to meet you in Zagreb. Have a nice day, and I wish you all the best forever and ever.
Thank you. That's very kind of you. I'll see you in Zagreb.
Yes, thank you.
You're very welcome. Have a wonderful day.
Yeah, you also. Bye. Bye-bye.
Goodbye for now.